Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you my entire Peperomia collection and showing off this really nice plant. So Peperomias are one of my favorite species of plants. They come in all shapes and sizes and really attractive foliage, really easy to care for. So I really recommend adding some Peperomias to your collection. Peperomias are also really easy to propagate. We can do that through stem or leaf cutting. Really easy process. I've got a couple of videos on how to propagate two types of Peperomia. I'll link to that in the description. Propagating your Peperonias is a fantastic way to kind of increase the amount of plants, Peperomias you have dotted around the house. It's a really good way to multiply the number of plants you have in your house for free. So I've got 6 Peperomias I'm going to be sharing with you today, and I've also got 3 wish list Peperonias that I'll be looking to buy in the coming year. So stay tuned to the end, guys. The first Peperomia on my list is the Peperomia Obtusifolia. So this is a really lovely plant, probably one of the more common varieties of Peperomia. Be able to find this in your local shops. Really interesting plant. This is a variegated version of the plant, so it's got light green leaves around the edges and then a dark green center in all the leaves. You can buy a non-variegated version with just the dark green leaves. Not as nice as the variegated version. So I find this looks really nice in my house. It's an unfussy plant, doesn't require too much watering, doesn't like having wet feet. Doesn't particularly mind being a little bit root bound as well, I found. Kind of happily grows, kind of sits there and does its thing. So a really nice Peperomia to add to your collection. One of the propagation videos I have in the description is on this guy, how to propagate this guy through stem cutting. So check out that video after this video, guys. The second Peperomia in my collection is the Peperomia Santorini, which is this guy here. So again, really nice plant. Got it in this terracotta pot because it doesn't like to have wet soil all the time. So the terracotta pot kind of wicks the moisture. So it allows the soil to dry out thoroughly in between waterings. But really interesting plant. Got lots of these leaves coming out through the soil. That's how it grows, that's how it spreads. And the thing I like most about this is the grey leaves on top. And then on the underside, it's got this kind of ruby color. So really interesting dual tone plant. I really like those. Really interesting as well that it grows these, I think these are flowers, types of flowers. It seems to grow these all year. They kind of pop up all through the year. It's winter here at the moment. I have this on my windowsill, on my west-facing windowsill in my living room. Kind of happy to get a bit of afternoon direct sun, so it doesn't really seem to harm it too much. This guy's easy to propagate through leaf cuttings. So we just take off a leaf cutting with some of the petiole attached. The petiole is the kind of stemmy bit attached to the leaf. Just cut it off at the base and then put it in a propagation medium. It should develop roots and then it will spread new growth through the soil. Got a video on how to do that, so I'll link that in the description. This is more of the common forms of Peperomia that you'll see. There's lots of variations of the plant in a similar shape to this kind of format. The third Peperomia in my collection is the Peperomia Polybotrya, or the Peperomia raindrop, easier to say. A bit different to my other 2 Peperomias that I've shown so far. Got these really thick, large, glossy leaves. Really interesting plant. It's quite a common variety. You'll be able to find it in most of your stores. I bought this one in IKEA. In my recent trip to IKEA, there's a video I did on that. I found this plant there, I think it was £5, so quite a cheap plant, and I think it looks really nice. I really like the thick, glossy leaves. Super easy to care for, this plant. Doesn't require any pruning really, just to get rid of some of the fading leaves. As it grows higher, the bottom leaves tend to get a little bit yellow, a little bit faded as it's pushing out new growth at the top. Just a natural thing that the plant does, so we can just pick those off when they're ready to come off and it should do fine. No other pruning apart from that. Doesn't really want too much watering like most Peperomias. They don't like wet feet, so really easy to care for in that regards. I just fertilise this once a month during the growing season just to keep the sheen and the dark glossy leaves on the plant. So I really like this plant, really looks really nice amongst my, my houseplant collection, quite different with the shape of the leaves and the glossy nature of it. The fourth peperomia in my collection is the Peperomia Angulata, which is this guy here. So again, slightly different form to my 3 previous peperomias that I've shown already. This is more of a trailing variety. So it's got these long stems that trail down from the plants with these dark green leaves attached to it, with kind of a lighter green striping in the leaves. So really interesting plant. I really like the way it grows with these long stems and super easy to propagate as well. In fact, I propagated this one and I got this kind of large plants. So I propagated it quite a few times, just do it through stem cutting, taking a stem off and then just putting it in soil or perlite or water, and it will develop roots, and then it should develop new stems like that has. So really easy to do. This plant is low light tolerant, which is super useful. So it will do well in most conditions in your house. And the reason for that is because it's got dark green leaves. Generally plants with dark green leaves tend to do better in low light conditions. Those with variegation, such as the variegated Obtusifolia, won't do so well in darker conditions. The leaves will start to fade. So this is a really good option in low light condition situations. The fifth peperomia in my collection is probably one of my favorite peperomias, really interesting plant, Peperomia Hope. So again, a trailing variety. You can see that with these long stems that are starting to develop. So this plant I bought in my local nursery. There was a tiny, just a couple of stems, small ones from the base of the plant. I think it was £3 I bought it for. So it was a little baby plant and it's since grown. I think I bought that last year, so I've had it about a year. And it's growing quite nicely. Probably too big for this pot now, so I probably will need to up pot this to allow it to grow even more. I'll probably be looking to propagate this plant as well, just as I have with my other peperomias. So really interesting plant, looks really nice on my IKEA cabinet that I have. I have a black cabinet in my living room and I find that the leaves on this kind of contrast nicely with that. So the sixth peperomia in my collection and my last one is this guy here. And this is called a Peperomia Nivalis. So this is a super interesting plant. This is actually a type of succulent. And you can tell that through the leaves, the thick leaves. So they almost look like green sweets, really thick and firm leaves. And that's where the plant stores all its water, so we just need to be careful that we don't overwater this plant, otherwise the leaves will go mushy and turn to rot, as with all succulents really. This is another recent purchase from my local nursery. I got it as a small plant. It was only about that high, so I put on that growth in about 6 months. So yeah, a really small plant, baby plant that I bought. It's quite a good way of increasing the number of house plants you have in your house. Just buy them small and grow them out as long as you're patient enough for that. This guy, as you can see, it's starting to do some interesting things at the top. I think these are flowers, I guess, or some form of flowering that the plant is doing. I'm not sure what will become of this, because this is my first winter of having this plant. But I guess it's something similar to what the Santorini does. Puts out these spiky flowers from the top, and they seem to be a similar form, although slightly smaller. So quite interesting. And as spring is coming around, it's starting to put out new growth from the top as well. So really interesting plant, different to my other types of peperomias. So I think that's why I like it. So I do recommend adding this to your collection. So that's the 6 types of peperomias that I have in my collection, and to be honest, that's not really enough at all. I think I'm going to be looking to grow the number of peperomias that I have within the coming year. The first part of my wish list is the watermelon peperomia. I think this looks like a really interesting plant from what I can tell on pictures online. I've not seen this plant in my local shops for some reason, even though it seemed quite popular online. I think it's quite similar to the Santorini in its form, in that it's got lots of leaves growing out from the base, from the soil, and obviously it has this kind of watermelon texture on the leaves, so you can see where it gets the name. So I'll be looking to add that to my collection within the next few weeks, I guess. Like I say, can't find it in my local shops for some reason, so I'll probably have to buy that online. My second wish list plant is the string of turtles, Peperomia string of turtles. I find this to be a really interesting plant. I did actually see this plant on my local nursery tour that I did a video on. I'll link to that in the description. So it was quite expensive in that shop. It was about £30 for a hanging basket. So it's a type of Peperomia, much like the Angulata here. It's a trailing type. So it will trail down from the pot. Really interesting, looks similar to a string of hearts that I've got in my living room. So yeah, I'll be looking to purchase that, probably try and find that a little bit cheaper online. And my other wish list Peperomia that I'll be looking to add to my collection is the Ruby Glow Peperomia, or the Gravelans. So this is similar to my Peperomia Nivalis in form. It's got these thick leaves, but it's got some interesting colours on them. So another succulent type of Peperomia, I believe. Looks really interesting. I think it's quite rare. I'm not seeing too much about it online. I've definitely never seen it in any of my local shops. So I'll be looking to see if I can find that online somewhere and purchase that. So there you have it, guys. That's my full Peperomia collection and 3 wish list Peperomias that I wish to add to my collection. Hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you did, then give it a thumbs up, please. It really helps the channel grow. Let me know in the comments as well which Peperomias you have in your collection, and also which Peperomia is your favourite. I'd be really interested to know. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit the bell icon to be notified when my future videos come out. And for your next video, why not check out this video here? I will see you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.